Ladies and gentlemen, queens and warriors of love, today I want to speak to your heart, not the version of your heart that tries to explain his behavior away, but the part that whispers when you're finally quiet. You deserve more. Love is beautiful. Connection is powerful. But time is sacred. And too many of us are bleeding days, weeks, months, even years, waiting on someone to wake up, a man up, or a finally show up. So how do you know if he's truly building with you? Or if he's just wasting your time? Here's how to tell. You want to believe him you want to believe that his words mean something, that when he says he's serious about you, he's not just trying to fill an awkward silence or momentarily ease your doubts. Because when someone looks you in the eyes and says, "I care about you," something inside you wants to relax. You exhale just a little. You start letting your guard down because that's all you've been waiting for, to finally feel safe, chosen, prioritized. But time passes and you start noticing that the beautiful things he says are not matched by what he actually does. The words stay sweet, but your heart feels tired. He tells you everything you want to hear, but he rarely shows up in the moments you need him to. And eventually, that disconnect starts to hurt more than his silence ever could. Because words are easy, they're effortless, they cost him nothing to say. I miss you, I want you, you means so much to me. Those phrases roll off the tongue and they create just enough hope to keep you hanging on. But actions cost energy, they cost intention. They require someone to follow through even when it's inconvenient, even when it challenges their ego, even when it calls for emotional maturity. And too often, the man you're holding on to gives you only enough to keep your heart invested, but never enough to build something real. He makes vague promises. He talks about the future like it's a movie you'll both star in one day. But every time you try to move toward that future, every time you express a need, every time you hope for consistency, every time you ask for clarity, he gives you a reason why now just isn't the right time. Excuses start to pile up like unanswered messages. He's busy. He's stressed. He's not sure what he wants right now. He's afraid of getting hurt again. He needs time to work on himself. And you, being the caring, patient, understanding woman that you are, you absorb those excuses. You don't want to be too much. You don't want to pressure him, so you hold back. You shrink your needs into silence. You make yourself smaller, more accommodating, more available, hoping that if you just keep loving him right, he'll eventually love you back in the way you need. But he doesn't. He doesn't rise to meet you. Instead, he keeps offering the same empty comfort. More words. He'll say you're special. He'll say he's never met anyone like you. He'll say he's trying. But a trying without action is just another excuse dressed up in good intentions. You see, there's a difference between someone who means well and someone who loves you well. And often we confuse the two. We think if someone has a good heart, it's enough. But the truth is, even good-hearted people can hurt you if they aren't ready for the love you're offering. Even kind men can waste your time if they haven't done the work to be consistent, honest, or emotionally responsible. You find yourself stuck in this loop. He gives you just enough to stay, but never enough to feel secure. It's a relationship built on almosts. Almost committed, almost available. Almost what you need. And each time you bring up your concerns, he reassures you with more beautiful words. He gets defensive. He tells you to be patient. He reminds you of all the nice things he's done, conveniently forgetting all the ways he's let you down. And somewhere deep down, you start to doubt yourself. Maybe you are asking for too much. To be held by actions, not empty sentences. To be chosen fully and fearlessly. So the next time his words sound sweet, but his actions leave you empty, ask yourself this: is he loving you, or is he just talking about it? Because your time, your energy, your heart, they are not negotiable. They are sacred, and it's time you start treating them that way. There's a certain kind of quiet pain that doesn't scream or break things. It waits. It sits silently in the corners of your heart and convinces you to keep holding on just a little longer. You wait for the message that never comes. You wait for the plans that never actually happen. You wait for effort, for initiation, for clarity, for love that doesn't make you chase it. You wait for him to wake up and realize you've been there all along, ready, steady, loyal. But while you're waiting, something inside you is slowly dimming. You're always hoping, but you're rarely receiving. And it's starting to cost you more than just time. It's costing you parts of yourself. Because the truth is, love should never feel like a waiting room where you sit for hours, days, months, hoping someone finally calls your name. It should not feel like a constant delay where every promise has a but, every plan comes with a cancellation, and every emotional opening is met with distance. When you're always the one initiating the conversation, always the one making space for his needs, always the one stretching yourself to stay connected, you're not in a relationship, you're in a holding pattern. You're loving in one direction and hoping he'll meet you halfway. But he doesn't. He just keeps taking your patience, your grace, your hope, and giving you silence in return. It's subtle the way emotional starvation happens. At first, it feels like understanding. You tell yourself he's going through something, that he needs time, that his heart is just guarded or healing or unsure. So you lean in. You show him you're different. You show him you won't run. You try to love him into wholeness. You become the safe place he never had. You overextend, overgive, overexplain, trying to fill in the blanks he keeps leaving behind. And he lets you. He lets you carry the emotional labor of the relationship while he gives you fragments, small crumbs of attention, just enough to keep you holding on. You see a missed call and your heart races. You get a 2-line text and it feels like a gift. You start mistaking bare minimum effort for real intimacy because you've grown used to being emotionally hungry. You've trained your heart to celebrate scraps. And deep down, you know this isn't how love is supposed to feel. You know you shouldn't be this anxious, this uncertain, this desperate for something real. But you silence that voice. You bury it because letting it speak would mean admitting the truth. That you've been waiting for someone who's not truly coming. It's not that he's a bad person. It's not that he doesn't care about you in some way, but caring isn't the same as choosing, and intention is not the same as presence. You need more than someone who wants you. You need someone who shows up for you. Who holds your heart with both hands, not just when it's convenient for him, but when it's hard, when it's messy, when it requires effort. Real love is reciprocal. Real love doesn't leave you wondering if you matter. It doesn't leave you stranded in silence while someone decides whether or not to be consistent. You start to notice patterns. He only reaches out when he's lonely. He only becomes affectionate when he feels you slipping away. He only talks about the future when you're on the verge of walking. And every time you try to bring up your needs, he tells you not to pressure him. He says he's doing his best. He asks for more time. He promises that things will be different soon, but they never are. The days stretch on and you're still in the same place, still waiting for something more than emotional breadcrumbs. There is nothing lonelier than being in love with someone who keeps you in limbo. Nothing more painful than giving your heart to someone who treats your commitment like a convenience store. Open whenever he needs comfort, closed when he doesn't. You deserve someone who sees your loyalty not as something to exploit, but something to honor. Someone who doesn't just say, "I care," but actually shows it in the way he prioritizes you, communicates with you, and respects your time. Because love is a verb. It's not just a feeling, it's a series of consistent actions. And if you are the only one showing up, then what you have is not love, it's an illusion, a hope, a someday that never becomes today. And the longer you wait, the more your spirit bends under the weight of that waiting. You start to lose yourself, your joy fades, your self-worth gets tangled in his indecision. You stop asking for what you need because you've been conditioned to expect disappointment. You live in a state of quiet emotional survival, always hoping, never receiving. And here's the most brutal truth. Some people will keep you waiting because they like the feeling of being loved without the responsibility of reciprocating. They like knowing you're there, that you'll pick up when they call, that you'll forgive the missed plans, the missed messages, the missed moments. They like having access to your heart without earning a place in it. And as long as you keep waiting, they'll keep taking. Not out of malice, but out of comfort, out of selfishness, out of emotional immaturity. You need to ask yourself, when was the last time you felt loved, not just hoped for it? When was the last time you received without begging? When was the last time someone poured into you without being prompted, guilted, or reminded? That is what you deserve. Not just a seat at the table, but a meal that nourishes your soul. Not just someone who occasionally checks in, but someone who shows up again and again because your heart is not a backup plan. It is not an option to be weighed when he's done exploring other ones. Waiting becomes toxic when it turns into self-abandonment. when your world starts revolving around someone who barely notices your orbit. When you make yourself small, silent, and patient just to accommodate someone else's inconsistency. You start to think that if you just wait a little longer, maybe he'll change, maybe he'll see. But you don't realize you're not waiting for a man. You're waiting for a version of him that only exists in your imagination. And while you wait for that fantasy to arrive, the real you, the vibrant, alive, worthy you, is being neglected. You don't need to be fixed. You don't need to try harder. You don't need to dim your light to make someone feel comfortable. You need to stop waiting and start choosing you. Choosing your peace, choosing your future, choosing a love that chooses you back. Because love is not about convincing someone to stay. It's about being met with someone who never lets you question your place in their life. You deserve presence, not promises. You deserve consistency, not confusion. You deserve to be a priority, not a placeholder. And that kind of love, with recognizing that the longer you sit in the waiting room, the longer you delay the real connection that's out there, one that will love you in the ways this man never could. So take a breath, be honest with yourself. You already know the answer. You've known it in your bones, in the ache of your unmet needs, in the heaviness of every night spent wondering why you're not enough. You are enough. You've always been enough, but you've been trying to prove it to someone who isn't capable of seeing it. No more waiting. No more giving your time, your energy, your emotional gold to someone who only shows up with empty pockets. Let go. Not because you're bitter, but because you're brave. Because you finally understand that love should fill you, not deplete you, that you don't have to keep holding on to almosts and maybes when what you deserve is a yes, a full-bodied, unwavering yes. Walk away from the waiting room. Close the door on someone who only knew how to visit but never stay. And in doing so, you make space for something real, for someone who will never make you feel like you're too much or not enough, but simply, beautifully, exactly right. Because your heart is a home, not a hotel, and it's time you stopped giving it to people who don't know how to stay. There's a moment in every emotionally draining relationship where you stop and whisper to yourself, oh, why does this feel so unclear? You're not being yelled at. You're not being betrayed in any obvious way, but you feel lost. You feel like you're living in a fog. One moment he's warm, affectionate, attentive, and the next he's distant, withdrawn, vague. One day you feel like you're everything to him, and the next you feel like a stranger. And you try to tell yourself that it's just a rough patch, just a phase, just stress, just bad timing, but deep down the ache grows louder. Because when you are cherished, you do not feel confused. Love, when real and rooted, brings clarity, not chaos. It's subtle at first. He's charming, sweet, and you feel seen in ways that excite you. He tells you things that spark hope. He gives you just enough affection to unlock your softest places. He listens sometimes, he leans in sometimes. He asks questions, compliments you, maybe even talks about the future in hypothetical, dreamy tones. But slowly, the ground beneath you starts to shift. You notice the change. Even if he says nothing's wrong, his messages come slower, his tone becomes inconsistent. His attention feels more borrowed than owned. And in those moments, you feel the sting of being emotionally available to someone who's not meeting you there anymore. And yet you stay. You hold on to the moments when it felt good. You play back the memories, the way he looked at you that night, the way he held your hand like he never wanted to let go, the way he said, I've never felt this way before. You cling to those memories like lifeboats, trying to survive the days when he forgets how to show up. And in the quiet of your soul, you wonder, if he said he cared, why does it feel like you're the only one carrying this connection? You start trying harder. You overthink every text before sending it. You reread your messages to make sure you didn't sound too needy, too distant, too anything. You wait for his response like it determines your worth for the day. You adjust your energy depending on how he's acting. If he's warm, you bloom. If he's cold, you shrink. You begin walking on emotional eggshells, hoping that if you can just do it right, he'll come back to you fully, the way he was in the beginning. But he doesn't. Or if he does, it's temporary. He shows up only when he senses you pulling away. He throws out enough words to keep you emotionally entangled. He tells you, I've just been busy, or you're overthinking, or you know how much you mean to me. And in your craving for reassurance, you believe him. Because believing means you don't have to walk away. Believing means there's still hope. Believing means this isn't a waste of time, even though your heart is screaming otherwise. Confusion becomes your norm. You don't even realize how much energy you spend trying to decode his behavior. You ask your friends, do you think he's losing interest? Oh, you try to interpret his every word, every delay, every silence, and you tell yourself you're just being cautious, but in reality, you're starving for something deeper. Certainty, security, truth. You're starving to feel cherished. Because here's the thing, when someone cherishes you, you don't live in doubt. When someone truly values you, there is consistency, not perfection, not drama, but presence. You are not an option, a backup, a placeholder, or a convenience. You are not a project. You are not something he returns to when everything else falls apart. You are someone he chooses again and again without leaving you wondering. If you have to keep asking yourself, what are we? That's your answer. If you constantly feel like you're doing mental gymnastics to understand his behavior, that's not connection, that's confusion, and confusion is not a love language. You were not made to live in uncertainty just to feel temporarily validated by someone who lacks the emotional maturity to love you properly. Let's be honest, sometimes we cling to confusion because it feels safer than clarity. Because clarity might mean facing a truth we're not ready to accept, that he's not as invested, that he loves the idea of you more than the reality of showing up for you, that he's comfortable being cared for but not committed, that he enjoys the warmth of your presence but not the responsibility of your heart. And yet we keep trying, we rationalize, we make excuses on his behalf. He's just afraid of getting hurt. He's been through a lot. He's not great with emotions. But what about you? But emotions. What about the emotional exhaustion of having to be both the nurturer and the nurtured? What about the heartbreak of hoping for more and getting less over and over again? What about your needs, your voice, your peace? You can't build a relationship on potential. You can't stay just because you feel something. Feelings are not foundations, and no matter how much you love him, if that love leaves you in a state of constant uncertainty, then that's not a safe place for your soul to land. When you are cherished, you are seen in your wholeness. You are spoken to with intention. You are held, not just when it's convenient, but when it matters. You are prioritized, not postponed. You are not a puzzle piece he's still deciding if he wants to fit into his life. You are the person he knows he doesn't want to lose. And if that's not what you're receiving, then love is not what you're experiencing. It's longing, it's craving, it's fantasy. But it's not love. Real love calms your nervous system. It does not spike your anxiety every time your phone goes silent. It does not make you question if you were too honest, too vulnerable, too expressive. It does not punish you for having emotions. It invites your truth. It welcomes your softness. It doesn't confuse you into compliance. It nurtures you into confidence. When someone truly cherishes you, they do not risk losing you by being unclear. They make sure you know where you stand, not because you demand it, but because they value you. They don't need reminders to text back, to follow through, to treat you like you matter. They do it because they want to. Because when a man sees your worth, he doesn't gamble with it. He rises to meet it. So if you're sitting in a space where you feel more confused than cherished, it's not because you're asking for too much. It's not because you're too emotional, too sensitive, or too intense. It's because you're in a place that doesn't honor the depth of what you bring. You have been pouring into a well that was never meant to hold your love. And the ache you feel, it's your soul begging you to stop shrinking for someone who doesn't have the capacity to love you fully. You deserve peace, not puzzles. You deserve security, not suspense. You deserve to be chosen, not tolerated. And I know it hurts. I know walking away from someone you care about, someone who feels familiar, someone who once made you feel alive. It's terrifying. But staying in confusion is even more painful, because the longer you stay, the more you teach your heart to accept half love as the norm. And you were not born for halfway love. You were born for something whole, something steady, something sacred. Let go of the confusion. Let go of the confusion. Let go of the questions you've been trying to answer on his behalf. Let go of the hope that he will someday become the man who finally sees you the way you've always seen him, and turn that vision inward. See yourself. See the strength it takes to care so deeply. See the beauty in your loyalty. See the light in your softness. And start giving yourself the clarity, the love, the peace that you've been waiting for someone else to give. You don't have to live in confusion anymore. You don't have to keep sacrificing your mental health for the possibility of love. You don't have to stay in relationships where you're constantly guessing your value. You don't need to be convinced of your worth. You are worthy right now, as you are. And someday someone will see it, not just in the moments when you shine, but in the moments when you struggle. Not just when it's easy, but when it requires effort. They'll show up not because you begged, but because they want to. And you'll realize that love was never supposed to make you feel crazy. It was supposed to make you feel cherished. So if you're confused, listen to that feeling. It's not drama. It's not insecurity. It's your body telling you, this doesn't feel safe. It's your heart saying, I need more than this. Don't silence that voice. Don't ignore the ache. You are not hard to love. You've just been trying to receive love from someone who doesn't know how to give it. And now it's time to stop being confused. It's time to start being cherished.